This is Abroad Perspective, the podcast exploring life abroad from all different perspectives. I'm Mariah House, and today we're going to Italy, a boot-shaped country with 3 active volcanoes and the world's favorite cuisine to boot. It's safe to say almost all of us have dreamed of traveling to Italy and eating gelato and pasta and all the cliches, but is it possible to take that dream to the next level and live and work in Italy as an American? It most definitely is, and today we'll talk with someone who lived her Italian dreams for a year in high school. But first, let's start with some good news. So today's positive news story is a roundup of the top 20 best places to study abroad for U.S. students, and it's from the U.S. News and World Report. According to the report, the number of U.S. students studying abroad in college has nearly rebounded to post-pandemic levels. According to 2025 data from the Institute of International Education, nearly 300,000 U.S. students studied abroad in 2023 to 2024, and that's up 6% from the prior year. And Europe hosted 64% of those students. And the article notes that Italy was the top destination for American students for the 4th year in a row. Over 45,000 U.S. students studied in Italy in the 2023 to 2024 school year, making up 15.1% of American study abroad participants, and that's up from 14.9% the year before. And fun fact, if you study in Italy, you could attend the oldest university in the Western world, the Università di Bologna, sorry, my Italian's a little rusty, which dates back almost 1,000 years to 1088 CE. And my takeaway from this is that it's very possible to study abroad in Italy. Lots of Americans are doing it, and it's only getting more popular, so you should go for it. It's interview time. I recently had the pleasure of chatting with my friend Amelia Shore, who spent a year in high school studying abroad in southern Italy. We discussed the ups and downs of living with the host family, her favorite Italian foods, and the cultural norms that would shock American high schoolers. Without further ado, let's get into the interview. Hi Amelia, how are you today?
I'm well. Hey Mariah.
Thank you so much for coming. So first question, why did you choose to spend a year of high school in Italy?
I was originally suggested the idea by my parents, and it had to settle in for a few weeks for me to start to feel excited by it. But yeah, I think the main idea is it was really exciting, the idea of going abroad for a whole year. And once I started looking into it, I just really wanted to do it. I chose Italy specifically after considering some other countries because I thought a European language might be easier to learn, and I thought it would be less competitive than Spanish-speaking programs, and Italy sounded like a cool place to explore.
And can you give us a quick overview of where you lived and what your kind of living situation was like?
Yeah, I was placed by my program with a family in southern Italy in a medium-sized town called Avellino. That's in the Campania, the countryside sort of, and it's maybe an hour from Naples, an hour from the Amalfi Coast, and I had 2 host sisters about my age and then 2 host parents, and we lived in their apartment above the family restaurant.
What did daily life look for you as an exchange student? Can you walk us through a typical school day?
Yeah, we took the public bus to school. I was in public Italian school there, and school started maybe around 8, maybe even a half hour earlier, I can't remember, and went until 1 p.m. And the students were all in one classroom for the day, and the teachers would move from class to class. We had varying courses each day depending on the schedule, and there's maybe 3 or 5 minute break between each classes. I didn't really speak Italian when I got there, so I was sort of just sitting there letting it wash over me for a decent portion of my first semester. And then getting out of school around 1 p.m., we would take the public bus back home and eat lunch in the restaurant.
Okay, so school would end at 1 p.m., so that's a little bit shorter than the typical American school day.
Yeah, that was pretty nice.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, going off of the classes, did you have to get grades or anything like that? Or?
We did. We took tests and got grades. There were some situations that were unique for me because I was an exchange student as opposed to like being scored like everybody else. But I think something that was distinct for me with Italian school is many of their tests, nearly all of them, would have a speaking component, and one by one the students would go up kind of to the front of the class just privately with a teacher, and the teacher would just ask them questions, and the students would kind of have to demonstrate their knowledge live.
Interesting. And so then also, how was the language barrier when you first arrived, and how was your experience learning Italian? And also, did you find that people spoke English?
In where I was, which like medium small town in southern Italy, actually most people did not speak English, which was nice. In bigger cities in the north, sometimes even speaking Italian to them, they'll still talk to you back in English. But there was definitely a lot of language barrier. I think it was nice that like me and my host sisters were all teenagers at the time, and we just like gestured and kind of laughed our way through it for a while. I feel like it took me 2 months to really start communicating well, and within those 2 months I studied vocabulary. I did apply some intentional effort to learn, but I think a lot of it I just picked up through wanting to speak and through being around Italians.
Awesome, very cool. Yeah, I think I had a similar experience in kind of rural northern Spain where most people did not speak English, and it was kind of nice because I know in the bigger cities people will get frustrated because they try to speak in Spanish and people just respond in English. So that can be very helpful for immersion. So is there an Italian custom or routine or ritual that you picked up while living there that you still incorporate into your life today?
I don't know if this is an Italian custom. My host sisters would eat their fries with mayo and ketchup. And I never had fries with mayo before, but I do that to this day. And I do think that's a very European thing.
Interesting. Yeah, that sounds delicious. Actually, you lived in Belgium too, right? So
yeah, they like mayo even more there.
Yeah, I would imagine. I've heard that the fries are very
yeah. I will
famous.
say, like, another more Italian thing that comes to mind is Christmas. Like, the big Christmas dinner is usually done Christmas Eve, and they have like a fish dinner, being so sea surrounded, and so they'll have like fried little octopi and like all kinds of fish, and I like don't make that, but like that's in mind as like if I wanted to do a fish dinner Christmas Eve, I would.
Yeah, that sounds delicious.
Yeah.
And interestingly, yeah, in Spain as well, it's the big meal is Christmas Eve, and like Christmas Day is not actually as big a deal.
Yeah.
What was the most frustrating or difficult aspect of adjusting to living in a new country with a new family?
My sisters and I all shared one bedroom. And I think like it was fine, and there was like some disgruntlement of all being in the same space, both on my and on their part. And I had never shared a bedroom before that point in time. To that end, there wasn't like, it was a small apartment. There wasn't built-in like private space in the home. And I think like one of a frustration that I like had early on but kind of resolved over time is like having friends there. I kind of like went with my host sister's friends for a while, but I like naturally didn't keep up at first, in part due to language, and then it took some time to like develop and forge my own friendships that wasn't just like tagging along with someone else.
Yeah, but that's really cool that you were able to do that eventually, because I can see how that would be very challenging.
Yeah.
And definitely not having your own space. I can see how that would be quite frustrating, because I did live with a host family for my first year in Spain, but I had my own bedroom, and I felt like that was having your own space to kind of decompress, especially when you're facing like all these new challenges and situations every day is pretty nice. So I have a lot of respect for you being able to handle that. Was there a cultural rule or unwritten family norm that you kind of had to learn the hard way?
My host mother, for a time period, felt like I walked too loud on the floors. We were in the top floor apartment, and our downstairs neighbors apparently could hear me walking. And she really wanted me to wear slippers to help mitigate that fact. And I was 15, and I put up a fight at the time. I was really resistant to wearing slippers. And then also, like, they Italians, maybe Americans do this as well, but I just hadn't picked up on it yet. Like, Italians would definitely not go out with wet hair. And just, like, kind of customs around not getting sick that I didn't, like, mind or pay attention to at the time.
Yeah, that is an interesting one, because I remember it seems like in Europe in general, the air conditioning, they're like, if you put on the air conditioning, you're gonna catch a cold or something. And also, in Spain, like, you have to wear like a coat and a scarf and a hat, or I think it's maybe not as big a deal in America. We don't have as many kind of superstitions around that. But I can see how the walking thing would be quite frustrating, because it's like, I'm walking too loudly. Like,
she might have been right at the time. I felt like she was exaggerating or making it up, but like, maybe I was walking loud.
I don't know. Living in an apartment is definitely an interesting transition if you've always lived in a house. What is your favorite Italian word, phrase, or concept that you learned?
Okay, I have one kind of ready. If you lose your keys or any kind of thing, it's common to say, "Oh, you must have eaten it."
Oh. I love that.
Yeah.
That's very Italian.
Yeah.
And how do you say that in Italian?
L'hai mangiato? Have you eaten it?
Very good. Okay. Italian is such a beautiful language. What was your favorite food from your time abroad?
So my host family owned a restaurant, and we ate there like all the time. Like, it would close usually like around 4 p.m. for like a family meal. I really loved like all of their pastas. They made pizza too, but they like made pasta fresh in house. And there's a lot of traditional pastas that we don't eat here. Paccheri, which is like a big tube pasta with salmon. Ooh. And zucchini with like a cream sauce. That was really, really good. They had a lot of different pasta dishes that were delicious.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And was there a food from the United States or from home that you missed a lot?
You couldn't really get peanut butter in Italy.
I had that experience as well. Yes.
Yeah, and like if there was like a foreign store, one place in town that I think you could get it, but there's also corn, definitely like not a thing there.
Yeah.
Sweet potatoes, pretty hard to find.
Yeah, I was.
So yeah, just some like American produce kind of things that were in common there.
But having that pasta probably helped, I would guess. Yeah. What is something completely normal in Italian daily life that would seem unthinkable to an American high schooler, or vice versa?
I mean, like, getting out at 1 p.m. and then all of the 14 and 15-year-olds smoking cigarettes, like, on the front stoop of the school.
Yeah. That would probably not sit well.
Definitely a different culture around nicotine and cigarettes there. There was, like, kind of a light siesta. I don't imagine, like, it was in Spain, but, like, a lot of businesses would close in the afternoon. And I remember sometimes the post office. Like, I might be exaggerating these hours because it's been a long time at this point, but I was trying to, like, go there to pick up a package, and it felt like it was open from, like, 10 a.m. to noon 2 days a week or something like that.
Yeah, that wouldn't be surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I had, like, every bank, every government office would close at 1 p.m. and that was it.
Yeah.
They went to lunch, it was done, and I was like, but I have to work? What do I do?
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely, in Spain, they definitely take a couple hours off in the afternoon. Kind of just have to embrace it.
Mm-hmm.
So, did living in Italy change how you view your life back in the U.S.?
Biggest impact for me was the sense of freedom, which I'm gonna, like, play on two levels. One was, like, with a host family, just like how they treat teenagers there is kind of a different culture. Like, I went through my activities on my own. There wasn't, like, a checking in with my host parents throughout the day. And coming from my lifestyle back here in the U.S., there was, just a ton of freedom in that. The biggest other thing, though, was that I could get all around Italy with public transit. And so the fact that I could, like, take a bus for 10 or 13 euros all the way to Rome and all the way out into the countryside. They had significant public transit, even in southern Italy, even in, like, semi-remote places. And so, like, as a non-driving teenager, that I could get far and wide wherever I wanted to. I got to visit a bunch of places. That stayed in my mind when I came back to the U.S., and it was like this nagging thing, and I'm still quite passionate about public transit.
Yeah, I think if we could have just the simple bus connections, even just nice buses, it doesn't have to be fancy, but to be able to take a bus to Raleigh, for example, or something would be super nice. Yeah. So did you have a favorite or most memorable place that you traveled on public transport?
Well, so something I did several times for different purposes was there's the train that's called the Circumvesuviana, which goes kind of around Mount Vesuvius and, like, the broader area. And that train departs from Naples, Napoli, and then there's, like, a bunch of different stops along the way. One of those stops being Pompeii and the actual, like, modern day town, and then the ruins, and then also just, like, coast towns where you could kind of visit the beach and, like, the cliffs and stuff. And I did take that train to eventually walk up Mount Vesuvius one day. So that was an amazing like, coastal ride.
Wow, yeah, I'm putting that on my bucket list for sure. For anyone on the fence about studying abroad, what would be your biggest piece of advice?
I think if you want to do it, you should do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I feel like if people are considering it, thinking about it, the regret of not doing it is going to be bigger than any regret of doing it and maybe not being totally comfortable or
Yeah,
something.
and I think, like, there are opportunities to travel and be, like, you know, with an organization in many ways throughout adult life. But I think it's much more rare to find the situation where you're, like, put up with a host family for a single host family for an extended amount of time beyond grade school.
Yeah. For me, living with the host family, I'm super grateful I was able to do that because I felt like I was able to learn so much more about the culture and just how everyday people lived, and not just, like, I don't know. It was just a lot easier for the immersion, and also just, like, made connections that I will hope to maintain for a long time.
Yeah. I did a study abroad for my final semester in college in Belgium. And I was, like, in a medium-sized town called Kortrijk, which was awesome. And there was a lot of beautiful parts of that experience. And it was, like, I only hung out with the international students. I did not learn Flemish. I mean, the, like, courses I was taking were in English. But I know probably a lot less about Belgium and Flemish culture.
Yeah.
Like I was sort of, I got to like exist in the towns, but I was maybe a touch like insulated with my international group, which was like it's awesome, cool experience. But yeah.
We'll have to have you back just to talk about Belgium.
Yeah.
But do you have anything else that you'd like to add about your experience?
I ran into an Italian downtown a couple weeks ago, and I hadn't spoken in a while, but we got to have this amazing conversation, and it does feel really awesome and like special. And then this is 10 years later to be able to like have those run-ins when I speak another non-common language here.
Yeah, that's, and especially Italian, which would be kind of, if you hear it, you're probably, whoa, that's Italian.
Yeah,
that would be more. That would stand out more. Yeah. And do you still listen to Italian or incorporate Italian into your life?
Every so often, I'm in touch with my host family. And I still have a lot of like Italian music on my playlists from that era. Yeah. Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. That was super insightful, and I really appreciate your time. Yeah, thanks for having me.
The exchange of the episode. Last episode, I broke down the North American Language and Cultural Assistance Program in Spain, which is an incredible option if you want a built-in stipend and a structured program. But as we discussed, it's currently tied up in legal issues. However, if you're looking for total independence, want to earn an actual university degree or complete a language program, and world-class food and history, today's exchange is for you. Today, we're going to break down the Italian student visa route. This isn't a structured government-run program with a built-in English teaching job. It's more of a do-it-yourself pathway for living in Italy on a student visa. So I'm going to give you a quick and dirty rundown on the basic requirements, what it actually costs, and the realistic pros and cons. First of all, where? You could do this in every single region of Italy, from Milan in the north to Sicily in the south. And unlike government-run exchange programs, you aren't assigned to a random village, so you can choose the university, language institute, or master's programs. And you'll just apply directly to the Italian institution or a certified Italian language school, and once you have your acceptance letter, you register on Italy's Central University portal, and you'll get pre-enrolled. The only limit is whether the university accepts you and whether you get your visa on time. Now, the when. Typically, it's going to be a spring to summer application cycle for a fall start. So April to June, you'll apply to Italian universities or language programs and get accepted. And then from May through July, you'll register on the Universitali platform, gather your documents, and get your visa. And you'll want to get your visa by September because the academic year will run from October through May or June. Now, the what. What will you be doing? You're going to be in Italy as a full-time student or taking an intensive language course of at least 20 hours per week. So unlike the NALCAP program, where you have a set teaching schedule, your schedule is going to be dictated by studying, lectures, exams, like any other university student. And additionally, non-European Union students are legally allowed to work up to 20 hours per week, so you could also have a part-time job to help support yourself. Now the who. Who can do this? So anyone with a high school diploma or a bachelor's degree, depending on whether you're applying for an undergrad or a master's program, you'll need to be 18 years or older, have a clean background check and proof of valid health insurance, and most specifically, you're going to need proof of funds. So you must show at least 6,000 to 7,000 euros per year in liquid savings sitting in a bank account. Now, a big difference from the EPIC program in Korea and NALCAP, which I talked about previously, is that there's no teaching experience or native English speaker status required because you aren't being hired to teach. And additionally, there's no upper age limit, so you could do this at age 85 if you want. However, it is worth noting that you do have to prove genuine intent. So if you already have 2 master's degrees and you try applying for a beginning language course, the consulate might question your motives. Now let's get into the pay and the costs. So you're not going to get paid a stipend because you're not doing a job, so you have to pay tuition. But the good news is that Italian public university tuition is affordable, very affordable compared to North America. It's going to be typically about 1,000 to 3,000 euros a year. And then to cover living costs, most students will work part-time. You could tutor English, work in tourism, or do on-campus jobs. Now, the why. One big benefit of this is the freedom. You get to choose where you live, what you study, and how you structure your life to a much greater extent than with more structured English teaching programs. Additionally, you can work legally up to 20 hours, which is a great benefit. And you're learning. You come away with a degree, which is something concrete that you can put on your resume. And it's easier to really immerse yourself in the language because you're not teaching English, and you either have to navigate an Italian university in Italian, or you're going to be learning Italian at least 20 hours per week in an intensive language course. Another benefit is that there is a pathway to EU residency. So completing a degree in Italy allows you to convert your student permit directly into a regular work permit upon graduation. And lastly, the low tuition. It's going to be typically a couple thousand euros per year, as I mentioned, which is way cheaper than higher education in the US or Canada, for example. Now, a big caveat is that the Permesso di Soggiorno residence permit process is legendary for its bureaucracy. I think we all know that Italy is infamous for its soul-crushing bureaucracy. So yeah, within 8 days of landing in Italy, you have to go to an Italian post office, request the kit giallo, which means yellow kit, pay around 150 to 200 euros in fees, and then get an appointment with the local police station. But the backlog is so massive in major cities that you might not get your actual permit card until your first semester is almost over. So you're going to have to learn patience before you even take your first midterm. Now, the good news, more good news, is that your Italian degree is valid back home, wherever you're from, because Italy uses the EU's Bologna process standard, so degrees are internationally recognized. So when you come back to your home country, you just run your transcripts through an official evaluation service, and that's it. Look for more information in the show notes. Remember to subscribe and share, and we'll be back in your earbuds soon.